Today on Join Our Town, Tracy White with QC Empowerment Network, a network created for empowering African Americans in the Quad Cities.
Hello and welcome to Joy in Our Town. I'm your host, Scott Reese, and this is the program where we have the opportunity to discover some amazing organizations around the Quad Cities, and even more importantly, the amazing people that are behind those organizations. Today, I am so excited to be sitting down with Tracy White, and she is on the planning committee, the board of directors for the QC Empowerment Network. Tracy, welcome to Join Our Town.
Thank you.
Delighted
Glad
to have
here.
you. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself. I know we had some time in the green room, and you are one of the few Quad City natives.
Right. It seems that, it's harder and harder to find some of us who have been here and born here. But I've been born and raised in the Quad Cities. I'm 46 years old. I'll be 47 here in a few months. And
you're a brave woman. Not many women will
we'll
do
say
that.
Right?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
But yeah, lived here, went to school here, raised my children here, and love being in the community. And that is part of why I'm a part of the QC Empowerment Network. It's because of the community that I live in.
Yeah. Well, we're going to unpack a lot today, and I just have to tell you, just the few minutes that I had with you in the green room earlier, you are a busy, busy lady.
I am.
And on top of everything that you do, you have 4 children. Tell us about your family.
Well, they're all grown now, which is a good thing. I enjoy the process of watching them as adults, and seeing some of the things that maybe they didn't like about how I raised them. Now they understand it.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm very, very much enjoying the process. My younger 2 are still in college. They both are in their last years of completing their degrees. One is in Iowa City and one is in St. Louis. My oldest daughter lives out in Vegas. I actually just came back from visiting with my grandchildren.
Yeah.
And my oldest son is still here in the Quad Cities.
Okay.
So we can be friends now. When you're a parent, it's hard to be that friend when you're trying to raise them. But now we're friends, and I definitely enjoy spending time with them.
Why don't you just take a moment and just kind of set that up for us. Tell us what that means. A lot of people are hearing it for the very first time.
Right.
So this is a great chance to let us know what's going on.
And with the network, we kind of laid low for the first year, trying to figure things out.
Okay.
And now we're trying to become more part of the community.
Okay.
But the network itself was created to address some of the issues that African Americans face here in our very own community.
Okay.
It's drawn off a blueprint from a similar program that takes place in Omaha, Nebraska. They are going into their 9th year, and they're making measurable changes with graduation rates, getting people into city government and school boards, empowering the small business community in the area. A gentleman from our area attended one of their conferences and came back with the thought that if it's working there, maybe it could work here.
That's excellent.
Exactly. So we started out as very large groups of just meeting and trying to identify some of the issues that were here in the Quad Cities. And we came up with 5. That we wanted to address. And so then committees were formed based off those issues, and we tried to address the issues. We're a network. We're exactly what we say we are. We're not a group. We're not an organization. We're not trying to duplicate any services that are already taking place and helping people in the Quad Cities. We simply want to be a conduit to help people understand who's out here, what are they doing, how can you support or provide a resource. So that's what our goal is with anything that we do. Of course, there are some things that weren't being done, so we kind of found a niche with some of those things and provide those opportunities to the community here in the Quad Cities.
That's amazing. Let me back you up just for a second because you mentioned a couple of things that have already just intrigued me. One is you mentioned, and you guys may not be at this point yet, but in, is it Omaha? Or the other, the graduation?
The dropout rate's gone down and the graduation rate has gone up.
That's amazing. Now, so they're actually engaging in high schools and with high school students?
With students.
Wow, at what level?
Well, all students. They are providing after-school programs.
Okay, so
they are providing programming. They're helping with tutoring.
So it's a mentoring, tutoring. Wow, modeling.
Right.
Wow.
And we have a lot of those services here. So as far as our Youth and Education Committee goes, that is one of the committees where we're trying to figure out a niche for. But until we do that, we are supporting what currently exists as far as helping the students in the area.
Okay, around the city. There's
Right,
already
around the
things
city.
in
There are
place.
things in place,
Okay.
right? So there are a few programs that are starting on the elementary and junior high level, and we're hoping that those will kind of become a tiered process from elementary to junior high to high school.
That's excellent.
Right.
That's excellent. Okay, so you also mentioned that you had identified, your organization identified, was it five major
issues?
Issues. Okay, I was going to say
that
concerns.
we developed committees for.
Can you walk us through those?
Right.
I know I'm putting you on the spot.
No, you're
but-
fine.
Okay.
I just hope I always forget the fifth one.
Okay.
So we have our professional engagement
Okay.
community. We have our economic equity committee.
Okay.
We have our youth and education, political action, and religious affairs.
Wow. That's amazing.
Right.
And so each of those committees, there are people that are working with, overseeing, and empowering and bettering
Right.
African Americans in the Quad Cities and pulling them together, networking their lives together.
Right.
What kind of changes have you seen, like even in the last couple of years? I know it's formative.
Right.
So, yeah.
Measurable changes.
I love that term, by the way.
Measurable, because
yeah.
you want to be able, I can say things change, but unless I can show you how
have
they've
they
changed,
changed?
exactly.
Yeah.
And so with the measurable changes, with economic equity, for example, the goal of that committee is to empower our Black business owners here in the Quad Cities.
Okay.
So by doing that, we're able to provide them resources, information, and networking. And because at the end of the day, that's really what it takes, is that networking. So we had our Black Business Expo last year, and we had surveys. We had about 20 businesses that participated. Based off those surveys, they wanted more. And so then we developed these Lunch and Learn series where every quarter, we set aside 2 hours on a Monday. We bring speakers in. We have a featured business.
wow.
We have best practices from an established business owner who has been successful over many years to share their story on how they did it, their struggles, their testimony. And then from that, we're going to start doing Networking Unplugged. Where it's kind of like speed dating, but it's speed networking.
Okay.
And you're able to pass out business cards, see who does what, who offers what. Because of that, we had a gentleman who did lawn care and snow removal. Very small. He was just doing residence. At the expo, he met a property manager. And the property manager hired him to do all the snow removal and landscaping for his properties. So then he got the confidence to start seeking larger jobs.
That's excellent.
Recently just signed a contract with the Rock Island Milan School District, all 17 schools, with Metrolink, all 82 bus shelters, with the city of Davenport, and also with West High School. And that's because of the connections that he had made through the network. So now he is in the position where he's buying property from the property manager that hired him initially.
Wow.
And he met a painter at one of our events, and with his properties, he needed someone to do interior, exterior painting. So what we're developing is a circle of support.
Yeah.
And
connection.
And connections, right. And when it happens, all I can do is I just clap, and I'm like, it works.
I love that.
It works, you
Yeah.
know? And so that is a measurable change that's happening within economic equity. And these are the things that we want to see happening with all of our committees so that the entire community can benefit from what we're doing. What we understand is that we're all part of the Quad Cities. At the end of the day, we all live here. And it's a very unique situation with the Quad Cities because it's a bi-state area. It's 4 different cities, 4 different school boards, 4 different city councils, 4 different sets of issues when it comes down to it. So it's a little bit more challenging for us versus Omaha, for example.
Sure.
But when you see stuff like this happening, you know it works.
You're having to tie in so many different elements and, goals and visions. The city has their own.
Right.
How do we make all of those one cohesive unit?
Right.
Well, with the success of that, maybe you guys should try speed dating.
Right.
Wow, that's really interesting and exciting. Talk to me just for a second about. Give me a general snapshot of the Black business community in the Quad Cities. Would you have any sense of how many Black business owners there are? How does that fit into the overall population of the Quad Cities?
It's a very small part of the population, but we're definitely there. Like I just said, I've been born and raised here. And even at the expo last year, I was meeting people who offered services that I had no idea. And they've been doing it for years, right?
Sure.
And so not everyone has a storefront. Not everyone has retail. We have a lot of people that provide services.
Yeah.
And just because I'm a Black business owner doesn't mean I just cater to a Black customer. And that's why the expo is so important.
Thank you for saying
right.
that. That's good.
So we have to put this out to the entire community. And what we know and understand is that we're part of the community. And if we can make our community stronger as far as the African American community and empower each other, makes the QC a better region.
So what the QC Empowerment Network is not, it's not the Black business owners or the Black community trying to isolate themselves and say, hey, we're kind of sequestered from the rest of the city, but we are empowering so that we can become better for
everybody. Exactly. And especially with economic and political empowerment, if we can do that for our community, it makes the entire community as a whole much stronger. Everyone has their silos, and we get that. They're silos, and everyone does their thing. But it's so much easier to work together than working as an individual.
Sure.
So much more gets done when you can do it together versus just trying to do it yourself.
That's excellent. Well, I know that, and we'll have a time later to talk more about QC Empowerment. I actually want to take a moment in this first segment to get back to you, because I have absolutely found you to be an intriguing individual. And there's so much happening inside of you. God has done some amazing things
has done
in your life, hasn't He? Yeah.
Yes.
And you're a busy lady. I know you have like 5 different things that you're involved in. You're with the Chamber of Commerce. Tell us some of the things about yourself that you're doing that kind of lend themselves to the QC Empowerment Network.
Well, actually, especially with the Chamber of Commerce, I work with membership services, and so I'm working with the people who make decisions for their companies.
And that's the Quad Cities. I'm kind of new
the
here.
Quad City Chamber of Commerce.
There is a Quad City. Now,
Yes.
does each individual town tend to have their own?
No,
or
we
they all...
used to, and then once again they realized if we all came together, we'd be
better
stronger
together.
Exactly.
I love that.
Exactly. So now it's one chamber. But being that I'm able to meet with the people who make the decisions as far as their business goes, it's all about establishing relationships. I think not a lot of people in today's society, like, relationships are almost hard to do, or they don't want to do them.
Sure.
But it's about establishing those relationships. And we understand we're for us, by us when it comes to the network, but we also understand we can't do it by ourselves. There are going to be times that we need to reach out to corporations, to churches, to companies, to nonprofits, to pull them in, because we all have the same vision at the end of the day. We may take different routes to get to that vision, but we all have the same vision.
Well, they'll make you better. And you'll make them better.
Exactly.
We're better together.
Exactly. And we're finding those partnerships are working. They're really working, And so being involved with the Chamber definitely helps with that. And then, my own personal businesses, it helps having that network, having that support, knowing that if I do something, I have people that I can get opinions from. I have people who will say yes or no. They'll be truthfully honest with me on whether something will work. And I have people that will support. And really, that's all we're trying to do with the network, is offer support to not only the people who are involved with the network, but the people in the community as well.
Thank you. Well, you are watching Joy in Our Town, and I am your host, Scott Reese, and we are sitting down with the QC Empowerment Network, Tracy White, and what a great time this has been, getting to know you better and more about your organization. And we have a lot more things, exciting things to talk about, how to get in touch with you, how people can become involved with you, and we're going to do exactly that right after this message.
Hey kids, what's a great way to start your day?
Wake up early and take over the bathroom before your brother?
No! First, fruits and veggies. Second, walk to school.
Yeah, we walk the safe route to school every day, Skip.
I know, Scout. It's a great way to get some exercise.
And look, our community garden.
Yep, right in our neighborhood. So we can eat healthy.
And move more.
Made possible with funding from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
See these hands? They grip the wheel of a Humvee in Afghanistan.
These hands? 6 years treating soldiers.
12 years flying choppers. We know you're strong, but sometimes you need a helping hand. You served us. Now let us serve you. The Iowa City VA Healthcare System.
Hello and welcome back to Joy in Our Town. I'm your host, Scott Reese, and we are having a wonderful time today sitting and talking with Tracy White. Tracy is a part of the one of the executive directors at QC Empowerment Network. I may not have said that right. You can kind of help correct that, but I know it's an amazing organization that's really making a difference in the Quad Cities. Thanks for being here today.
Oh, no, thank you for having me.
So exactly, define your role for us and how that works.
The good thing about the network is that we all play an equal role. So we have a planning committee. There's no presidents or directors or anything like that. So there's 4 of us that are on the planning committee, and we kind of oversee the other committees that are doing, what they're doing. And then each committee has its own chair. So.
Well, I know that in knowing that we were going to be sitting down together today and have some time, I went to your website and found it very intriguing, very excited about what you're doing in the Quad Cities, and just want to reiterate that one of the things I really appreciate about what you're doing and your heart for this is that this is certainly about empowering the Black community, empowering Black businesses, in the 5 areas that we've talked about, but this is really about making the Quad Cities a stronger place where we're doing this thing together.
Right, and really the network is really all about the village concept, where it takes a village.
That's good.
We truly believe that we have to help our brothers, we have to help our sisters, we have to help each other. Yesterday, one of the members of the planning committee, he's a minister, and we were just kind of talking over some things that we're planning for the future. And he really started, he's talking about Luke 10, the parable of the Good Samaritan. And as he was kind of explaining it to me, his thought process was, we can't keep walking by. And, and I was like, well, break that down for me, And, the gentleman needed help. 2 people passed by. We don't know why they did, and that, it is what it is. We don't know why some people don't. But for the one who did, you have to help your neighbor. And neighbor, I don't mean boundaries. I mean help those who need help. I'm not your neighbor because I live next to you. I'm your neighbor because I can help you. And each of us have our own talent strengths. Everyone within them has a talent strength. Once you identify it, you can't keep it to yourself.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? You have to let your light shine so others can see it and so that you can help others as well. And that's really what it boils down to for the network. And have we identified all the issues in the community? No. So we haven't talked to everybody in the community. We started with what we had, but that doesn't mean that's it. And hopefully by people knowing that this is a labor of love, that we're doing this because we all have God-given talents that we want to give back to the community, that we're doing this because we recognize that there's a need for issues to be discussed, that more people will start doing the same thing. I am an optimist. I am a true optimist, even with the way things are going in the world these days, that I feel like if you can change one home, that home can start affecting a neighborhood. The neighborhood starts affecting a community, and the community can start affecting a nation. And that's where it has to start. So we truly start at home. We're trying to get away from that us-them mentality by putting out there, I want the best for myself as an individual, but I have to want that same best for the next person.
That's excellent.
And so by doing this and having faith that, once again, me being an optimist, that people can kind of see where we're coming from as a network, and we'll join in and start doing the same thing around the community to everybody else. I might not be around to see it, but it'll definitely, my grandchildren might be around to see it. It'll definitely happen if we can get everybody to kind of see why we're doing it versus what we're doing.
I think the amazing thing that I find in talking with you about this is that although this isn't quote unquote a Christian organization, and here on Joy in Our Town we like to look at a Christian perspective, but so although this isn't a Christian organization per se, see, I've spent the last 5 minutes hearing your heart. And what I've gleaned from you are values. I mean, it's just one value after another that, if I can make somebody else better, then that helps them, and then I'm better because I made somebody else better. And I find so many biblical values in the very things that you're talking about. And not only what you're talking about, but how you're talking about it. There's something of the life of God that just exudes from you.
It's always easier to be who you are when you're around people who are like you.
Sure, yeah.
And so the people that are involved.
Iron sharpens iron,
exactly.
Fire feeds fire.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
So we all have that passion. Now, where the passion comes from, it's different for everybody.
Yeah.
Everyone has their own story. But when we can come together with a common goal, and everyone has that passion to just want to try to make a difference. It's one thing to say, well, I want to make a difference, but it's another thing to actually go out and try to make. Nothing beats a failure but a try. So I think it's.
Say that again?
Nothing beats a failure but a try.
But a try, excellent. Yeah.
So,
it's not about hoping that things will change. I'm going to give myself to change.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think all of us understand that we can change our life at will. As long as you have that faith and direction. And like I said, everyone that's involved with the network, we all come from different backgrounds, different stories. Everyone has, their own thing, but we've come together with that one goal.
Yeah. I'm reminded, I remember one time when I felt like the Lord spoke to me in a very significant way, and he told me, he says, don't live in the shadow of others. And so I'm kind of like, okay, I get that, although I didn't fully get it. And then he said, neither cast a shadow on others.
Right.
And then the picture that I had was of myself reaching out and grabbing onto people that were a step beyond where I was in life or even in my chosen profession. But then also, it's not enough to reach up and grab a hold of something, but then I must reach down.
Back. Right.
Yeah, and I hear you saying that.
Right. You have to. You have to. I've been blessed. I can only speak for me. So I have been blessed. And there were days when I didn't know if I was going to make it through that day. There were days when I didn't know how I was going to feed my children. There were days when we didn't have gas and lights. But I see where I'm at now. And so I know that, but for the grace of God, I am where I am at now. So Tracy, it's important to me to share my story, to show that you can overcome, to show that redemption is possible, so that those who may be going through what I went through, and like I said, I can only speak for me, can see that you can come up. And while you're coming up, you have to go back and help that next person.
I love that. So if you could fast forward and say 5 years from now, this is kind of what I envision the QC Empowerment Network doing, looking like, some things that we would like to achieve. Paint a picture for us. Cast a vision of what 5 years from now would look like if you could have it your way.
Right. Well, if I could, in my perfect world,
yeah.
We definitely would be strong as an entire community. I feel like in the Quad Cities, we're segmented a lot, and
now you're referring by business or racially or
overall,
even religiously?
Yes, religiously, socially, within organizations. And so in my ideal world, we'd all be working together and empowering each other. Our graduation rates would go up, our dropout rate would go down, the gun violence wouldn't be here. These kids would have something productive to do versus trying to find something to do.
You're casting vision, Tracy.
Right. But I know it can happen. It's a slow process for us, but my dad always said you got to crawl before you walk. So it's a slow process, but 5 years from now, I believe we'll be there. We'll have those measurable changes. We'll be able to say, these businesses have grown. We have people in city council. We have people in school boards, so our voices are heard. We're politically empowered as a people. A lot of times decisions get made around here without input from the African American community. So we need to make others understand that our opinion matters as well. What's interesting now is, people are starting to recognize what's going on. One thing that we are understanding with the way things are today is that we have to start looking out for ourselves. Nothing's going to be handed to you anymore. And so really that's why, once again, it happened with slavery. It happened with civil rights movement, and now we just need to make it happen again. Not that history repeats itself, but that you learn from history and see what you need to do different.
Good. So as you look at 2017, I know that, so now do you meet once a month? Kind of give us a sense of your calendar. Are there
Right.
any events that we can talk about that you have coming up in the next, the next year or so that you would like to make the viewers informed of?
Our big event is the Black Expo, and that's
Okay.
taking place February 11th.
Where at?
It's going to be at Augustana College in the
Okay.
Gerber Life Center.
Okay.
It's a wonderful partnership with Augustana College.
And that is advertised on your website. Go ahead
Yes, it
and
is.
take that moment and tell us your website.
Well, it's our Facebook page.
Facebook,
Yes,
okay.
our Facebook
That's what it
page.
was.
Right, and we're under QC Empowerment Network. If you
Okay.
search us, you'll find us.
So go to Facebook and search QC Empowerment Network.
Yes.
And that will come up. And that Black Expo
It's all the information is
promoted
on there. Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Good.
Anything you
So
want
the
about a
Facebook-
network, if you're on social media, we are huge social media people.
Yeah, sure.
So our presence is really felt on Facebook, but we make sure we get all of our information out there so that people understand what
variety.
we're doing and how they can get in contact with us.
Okay. So you have the Black Expo in February, and then you have the Lunch and Learn
In April.
in April. And what else do you have coming up in the year that people can look forward to and get involved?
Well, what we are in the works of is, because we did used to do monthly meetings, but we understand people are busy with jobs, with children, with other commitments, with church. So the monthly meetings we put a stop on. And what we are working on is putting together a huge conference in the fall. And the conference will address the issues for each of the 5 committees that we have. We invite the community out there as a whole. So you as a pastor might want to attend the sessions on religious affairs. Someone else as an educator might go to the sessions on youth and education. That way we're kind of targeting people. And then, of course, after the conference, we'll have a huge call to action to become part of the network and get involved with what we're doing.
So let me break down a wall then, because you just said something very interesting. You said that I would be welcome to that conference, but I'm not Black.
I meant you as a pastor.
Yeah, but no, address that for me so people will know.
What? And we have, it's a difficult thing for us. It really is. But at the end of the day, we understand that once again, we have to empower the African American community so that we can make our greater community whole. So we are very limited to African Americans being involved with our events.
Okay.
As far as like the Black Expo goes, we want the community there as a whole, but our vendors are only Black-owned businesses. But
That's
we want
fair.
the community there because, once again, they don't just cater to Black customers. We have real estate agents, we have landscapers, we have car detailers, we have car sales, event planners, caterers, and so they offer a wide variety of services to anyone. But we are really just working on trying to empower our community so that we can then make the community greater as a whole.
Together, we're a better community because of you. So thank you so much
thank you for having
being
me.
with me today. It's been a
appreciate
lot of fun being
Yes.
with you, and look forward to seeing all that happens through the QC Empowerment Network. And thank you. Thank you for joining us today on Join Our Town, and it's been a delight to share with you, and we look forward to seeing you next time right here.
This program has been sponsored by the Trinity Broadcasting Network and made possible by your telephone dollar. For continual support, then keep Join Our Town brought to your home every day. So write Join Our Town, P.O. Box A, Santa Ana, California, 92711.